YouTube has a new boss and it's an Indian once again. 49-year-old Indian American who will now be heading YouTube.
What if I told you that one of the most powerful men in the history of the internet owes everything to a stranger with directions and a bus schedule?
Not a mentor, not a VC, not a warm intro at a networking event. A stranger at an airport and a Greyhound bus to Indiana.
That stranger doesn't know it, but the directions he gives that day sets off a chain of events that leads eventually to the platform 2 billion people use every single day.
A boy who moves from Michigan to India at 12 years old. No language, no friends, no warning, and still comes out on top.
An engineer who turns down a meeting with Eric Schmidt, says no to Twitter, and still ends up running the biggest video platform in human history.
A man who watches his brother die slowly over 4 weeks and turns that grief into a $10 million gift.
If you've ever watched a YouTube video, and I'm willing to bet an arm that you have, you're living in a world Neal Mohan helped build.
Hi, I am Vaishali.
And I'm Harsh, and this is the Victory Code podcast, where ambition meets direction.
Every episode, we go deep into the life of an immigrant, someone who crossed borders, started over, and built a life that didn't exist when they arrived. So you can take their mindset, their turning points, and their hard-won strategies into your own journey.
Today's episode is a little different, because the man we are telling you about wasn't the one who crossed the border, his father was.
But here is what we have learned making this show. The immigrant story doesn't end with the person who made the crossing. It lives on in everything they build after, in the children they raise, in the codes they pass down.
Today, we bring you the story of Neal Mohan, born in Indiana, raised in Michigan and Lucknow, the Indian-American CEO of YouTube, named the Time Magazine CEO of the Year in 2025.
And this story, like so many great ones, begins not with him, but with his father landing at JFK airport with $25 in his pocket and one small act of kindness from a complete stranger.
To understand Neal Mohan, you have to start before Neal Mohan. You have to go back to an Indian engineer standing in the arrivals hall at JFK airport. The year is early 1970s. The man is Aditya Mohan, Neal's father.
Aditya graduates from IIT Kharagpur, one of the most prestigious engineering institutes in the world, and earns a place at Purdue University in Indiana for his PhD in civil engineering. He crosses an ocean to chase it.
And he lands at JFK with just $25 in his pocket. That's just about $200 in 2026. Probably a round trip from JFK to Times Square and maybe a sandwich.
He asks the first friendly face he sees, what's the quickest way to Lafayette, Indiana? A kind stranger points him to a Greyhound bus stop. He boards, he rides, and he arrives.
Neal tells that story whenever someone asks him to trace the straight line back to how he ended up running YouTube. He doesn't start with himself, he starts with his father.
And when he describes it, he uses a phrase that stays with you. He calls it, in his own words, the start of his journey.
That is the inheritance. Not money, not connections, an example. A man who shows his son what it looks like to bet on yourself with nothing but nerves.
And Neal Mohan would spend the next 50 years making that bet, again and again, in bigger and bigger rooms.
And this brings us to our first victory code, the inheritance of courage. Vaishali, tell us about it.
The most important things we carry aren't in our wallets. They are in the examples set before us. Aditya Mohan doesn't give his son, a life in America. He gives him a model of what it looks like to bet on yourself with nothing but belief.
Neal doesn't inherit money. He inherits courage. And sometimes that turns out to be worth a great deal more.
If this resonates with you, there is a book worth picking up called The Immigrant Advantage by Claudia Colgan. It looks at the specific habits and practices that immigrant families carry across generations and why those habits consistently produce extraordinary outcomes.
Neal Mohan is born in Lafayette, Indiana, the same city his father had ridden that bus to. The family later settles in Ann Arbor, Michigan in the early 1980s.
And if you're picturing a quiet Midwestern town in 1981, you're picturing it correctly. Neal spends his childhood doing all the things every kid his age does. Transformers, Star Wars, baseball, the Little League.
But there is one small detail that sets him apart. His family is one of only 2 Indian families in the entire town.
And you won't believe it. The other Indian kid in the town is also named Neal. Two Indian boys, same small Michigan town, same name. I cannot make this up. Neal Mohan cannot make this up.
He describes it as, quote, a little confusing for a lot of people. That is a very polite way to describe growing up as a visible minority in 1980s Middle America.
Exactly. And he isn't excluded. He has friends, he has his teams, and he has his baseball diamond. But he always feels it. You know, that slight gap between fitting in perfectly and actually belonging.
And this is where something really interesting starts to form in Neal Mohan's character. When you find it difficult to belong through how you look or where you are from, finding what you love can help.
Yes. And for young Neal, that is media, or how we put it, these days, content. Books, magazines, sports, TV shows, games. These become the bridges he builds to connect with the world around him.
He says a 15-year-old kid today who feels like an outsider can go to YouTube and find their people, just like he once did through the content platforms of those days. That, he says, is one of the things that gets him going in the morning.
And this brings us to the second victory code. Belonging is built, not given. If the world around you doesn't reflect who you are, you don't change who you are. You find the frequency that does. You find your tribe through passion.
Neal doesn't wait for someone to make space for him. He makes it his own through every book he reads, every game he plays, every screen he stares at. That instinct doesn't leave him. It becomes YouTube's entire mission.
Seth Godin writes about exactly this in his book, Tribes. The idea that the internet doesn't create communities, it finds the one that already exists and connects them.
Right before high school, Neal's parents make a decision that feels to a 12-year-old boy like the end of the world.
They move the family back to India, to Lucknow, a big, loud, sprawling city in Uttar Pradesh, a state in northern India, just 5 hours away from the Taj Mahal. A place Neal has never really lived in, a place where he doesn't know the language.
Also my hometown. Fun fact, Lucknow has been officially designated a UNESCO Creative City of Gastronomy in 2025. My personal food recommendation, galati kebab and Mughlai paratha. Thank me later.
मुस्कुराइए आप लखनऊ में हैं. That's literally the official Hindi tagline of the city. It means smile because you are in Lucknow and life's about to get amazing. And it really is a vibrant place, a very important city in India's cultural and historical story. A must visit if you're planning a trip to India.
Oops, we got carried away. Where were we?
The 80s. Neal has moved to Lucknow. Now, this isn't a WhatsApp video call away, This isn't a quick flight back. In fact, our last flight to New York from Lucknow was about 30 hours long. This is another world. And for a young boy from Michigan, it feels exactly like that.
Neal calls it, in his own words, a pretty big, traumatic change. He understands Hindi because his parents sometimes speak it to each other. But speak it himself? Write it? Read it? Absolutely not.
Absolutely. Imagine this. You are 12 years old, you've just left your friends, your baseball team, your American life, and you land in one of India's most densely populated cities with an American accent and zero Hindi. You don't belong.
In one summer, he has to catch up on 9 years of Hindi, plus Sanskrit, which is taught as a second language at most Indian schools.
He enrolls at St. Francis College in Hazratganj, Lucknow. He is the boy who sounds weird, too American for India, too Indian for America.
And here is where you see what Neal Mohan is really made of. He doesn't retreat. He doesn't resent it. He gets to work.
He learns the languages. He makes friends. Friends who are by his own account still among his closest in the world today. He doesn't just survive the move. He thrives in it.
And here is something remarkable that Neal shares. He connects Sanskrit, one of the oldest and most structured languages in human history, to computer programming.
He describes Sanskrit as incredibly phonetic and rule-based. It follows grammar rules more strictly than almost any modern language. And to an engineer's mind, that structure feels exactly like writing code.
A 12-year-old boy forced to learn an ancient language in an unfamiliar city. And he finds in it the very logic that will drive his career in Silicon Valley. You cannot make this stuff up.
Well, this brings us to our third victory code: lean into change or get consumed by it.
Leaning into change is something Neal talks about in every single interview. But here's the thing, it is not a corporate slogan for him. It is what he actually lived by in Lucknow at age 12, in Hindi.
The move to India doesn't break him, it builds him. It gives him the ability to walk into an unfamiliar room, an unfamiliar country, an unfamiliar culture, and find a way to belong.
Ryan Holiday's book, The Obstacle is the Way, is a good place to go deeper on this. The central idea rooted in Stoic philosophy is that the obstacle doesn't block the path, the obstacle is the path.
Now here is a story that almost no one who covers Neal Mohan ever notices. While he's in high school in Lucknow, still catching up on Hindi, still finding his feet, he starts a company.
Not a lemonade stand, not a tutoring gig, a software company in Lucknow in the 1980s, before personal computers were even common in India.
Wow. Neal Mohan writes educational software, programs that teach organic chemistry to other high school students and teachers.
He loves two things equally, chemistry and programming. So he builds something that combines them. He sells it, he runs it, he learns from it.
Here is what is remarkable. No one tells him to do this. No accelerator, no mentor, no TED talk about startup. Just a curious teenage mind seeing a problem and building a solution.
The Lucknow software startup is the first chapter of a product career that eventually reshapes the entire internet economy. The first product is organic chemistry lessons, and the end product, YouTube, in its current avatar.
We are still learning chemistry on YouTube though. This brings us to our fourth victory code. If you see it, build it. Neal doesn't wait for Stanford or Silicon Valley to tell him he's a founder. He's already founding things in a city where no one expects it.
The nerd in the Lucknow classroom has already figured out the most important lesson of entrepreneurship. If you see a problem, build a solution. Don't wait for permission. The world will eventually catch up.
Paul Graham's essay, Do Things That Don't Scale from Y Combinator, captures this exact mindset. The idea that the most important companies in history start as scrappy, informal, unscalable experiments, exactly like Neal's chemistry software in Lucknow.
It's 1992. Neal Mohan is back in the United States. He enrolls at Stanford University to study electrical engineering and graduates in 1996.
Here is how he describes Stanford to his MBA classmates years later. He calls it nerd on nerd, as in he's already a nerd and Stanford just turns the dial up to 11.
Stanford isn't just a school. It is, as he puts it, the gateway to everything he wants to do in technology.
After undergrad, he takes a brief consultant job at Accenture, the classic figure out what I actually want move that every engineering grad makes at least once.
It doesn't last long. The internet is exploding, the dot-com bubble is inflating, and Neal Mohan has an engineer's brain, a product builder's instinct, and absolutely no interest in PowerPoint decks for Fortune 500 companies.
So in 1997, Neal joins a Silicon Valley startup called NetGravity. NetGravity is building the infrastructure that lets websites serve and track display ads. It is essentially trying to solve one of the core problems of early commercial internet. How do you make money from this thing?
And that question, how to build a business around the open internet, becomes the thread that connects the next 25 years of his career.
Because NetGravity is soon acquired by a company called DoubleClick. And with that acquisition, Neal Mohan steps into the machine that powers the entire internet economy. His address changes, his trajectory locks in.
DoubleClick is the company that builds the plumbing of digital advertising. It creates a technology that sits between advertisers and publishers and decides which ad you see, when you see it, and whether it actually gets counted.
Without DoubleClick, there is no monetized internet of today. No free news sites, no free email, no free search engines. It is the invisible engine underneath all of it.
Neal joins as the acquisition of NetGravity closes and quickly becomes one of the key operators running the business. But then, the ground shifts beneath everyone's feet.
The year 2000. .com crash. Billions of dollars evaporate overnight. DoubleClick makes a disastrous acquisition of a company called Abacus Direct, and the whole enterprise begins to unravel.
Neal, still in his late 20s, steps up to lead business operations. He cuts costs, stabilizes the company, keeps the lights on. His boss is replaced. Private equity comes in. The company strips back to its core.
And then he does something that reveals exactly what kind of operator he is. Rather than ride out the chaos, he goes back to Stanford for his MBA. Not to escape, to come back stronger.
Neal earns an MBA and graduates as an R.J. Miller Scholar. That distinction goes to the top 10% of the graduating class. It is not a small thing.
And while he's in school, the private equity firm Hellman and Friedman finishes restructuring DoubleClick. They bring in a new CEO named David Rosenblatt, and Rosenblatt places a call to Neal.
The message is clear. The company is rebuilt. There is a real opportunity here. Come back and help lead it.
So Neal goes back to DoubleClick, this time as one of its senior leaders, and together with Rosenblatt, he does something extraordinary. They sit down and create a 400-slide strategic presentation laying out a completely new direction for the company.
They reposition DoubleClick around advertising exchange technology, ad tech infrastructure, and ad networking. They present it to the board. The board approves it.
That plan is still to this day credited as having shaped how Google operates its advertising business. The document that two executives write during a company turnaround is still running the machine decades later.
This brings us to our fifth victory code. The comeback is in the details. Anyone can survive a crisis, but only a handful sit down, think clearly, write 400 pages, and rebuild the machine better than it was before.
Neal doesn't run from the dot-com wreckage. He studies it, understands it, and builds a blueprint that outlasts every headline about the crash. The plan is still running. The crash is history.
Jim Collins documents this pattern in his book, Good to Great. Companies that recover from near collapse don't do it through heroics. They do it through disciplined, unglamorous, detail-level thinking. Exactly what Neal does with DoubleClick.
Coming out of Stanford GSB in 2005, Neal faces one of the cleanest fork in the road moments you hear about in tech. And the two roads couldn't be more different.
Option A, join Google, the fastest rising company in Silicon Valley, right down the road from Stanford, a company that everyone knows is about to change the world.
Option B, go back to DoubleClick, a company that has just come through a dot-com crash and a major restructuring, still rebuilding, still uncertain, based in New York.
And the person trying to recruit him to Google is his own professor at Stanford GSB, Eric Schmidt, the CEO of Google.
Wow, let that land for a second. Eric Schmidt, one of the most powerful CEOs in Silicon Valley, personally wants to hire Neal Mohan. And Neal says no.
He chooses DoubleClick because he believes in the turnaround, because he wants the responsibility of running something real, not joining something that is already winning.
But there is a layer to this decision that almost never gets mentioned, and it is the most human part of the whole story.
Neal has just spent months convincing his wife Hema to leave New York City, where she has grown up, and move to Palo Alto with him. New city, new life, a fresh start.
And then he sits her down and says, actually, I'm going back to DoubleClick, which means I'm commuting 3,000 miles to New York and back regularly.
He tells the story at Stanford GSB and the whole room laughs. Because you can feel it, the look on Hema's face, the silence before he responds. I'm sure many of you are familiar with that.
She doesn't leave him. She doesn't veto it. She trusts the bet. And Neal calls it plainly a bet on himself. The kind of bet you can only make if you're very sure of yourself and very sure of your partner.
And the bet pays off. DoubleClick is acquired by Google for $3.1 billion. Neal Mohan's so-called wrong choice turns out to be one of the best calls in Silicon Valley's history.
This brings us to the sixth victory code. Don't just chase winners, build them. Google is the obvious choice, everyone knows Google wins. Choosing DoubleClick means choosing the harder path and the uncertain path, the one that needs him the most.
The people who change industries rarely go to the companies that are already dominant. They go to the ones that are in the fight, because that is where you actually learn to lead. This is a strategy very similar to Vinod Khosla's.
Creator of Nike, Phil Knight, writes about exactly this in his memoir Shoe Dog. He bets on himself before Nike is Nike, when it is just a scrappy distributor selling shoes from the back of a car. The size of the bet is different, the courage is the same.
Here is one of the most extraordinary facts about Neal Mohan's relationship with YouTube, and it almost never gets told.
Neal Mohan's relationship with YouTube did not start when Google bought it in 2006. It did not start when he joined YouTube as CPO in 2015. It started years before any of that.
When Neal is running DoubleClick's ad-serving business, one of his biggest partners is a small startup in San Mateo, California. They are operating out of an office above a pizza parlor.
He flies in to meet the founders and the team. And the conversation is always the same. They say, how can you keep up? You can't keep up with our growth. How are you going to actually scale?
Everything at this little pizza parlor startup is, in his words, always up and to the right. Insane growth, no ceiling in sight. Founders who can't even imagine the size it eventually reaches.
And you know which startup was that? The startup is YouTube. The platform he runs today is the same company that once breathed down the neck of his ad server. He sees it coming before almost anyone else does.
And so, when Google acquires DoubleClick in 2007, Neal doesn't just join Google. He steps into a company that already owns a platform he has been watching grow for years. The relationship with YouTube isn't new. It is, in a way, a homecoming.
He joins Google as Senior Vice President of Display and Video Advertising, overseeing the largest non-search advertising business on earth. He is now formally in the machine, and the machine is YouTube.
This brings us to our 7th victory code. Relationships outdo strategy. Neal's connection to YouTube isn't 10 years old. It isn't from when he becomes CEO. It goes back to when he's flying across the country to meet founders in a room above a pizza shop.
The companies that define your career aren't always the ones that hire you first. Sometimes they're the ones you watch grow and stay close to long before the world knows their name.
On April 13, 2007, Google announces it is acquiring DoubleClick for $3.1 billion, one of the biggest tech acquisitions in history at the time.
Neal's former professor at Stanford GSB, George Foster, calls him a master negotiator. He credits Neal as the main reason the deal happens the way it does.
When Neal is asked about his negotiation philosophy, his answer is clean and precise. He says it is never about the back and forth on the price. It is about painting a picture of the value that unlocks on both sides of the deal.
Absolutely. Now, a few years into his time at Google, a story leaks to the press. A report claims that Google offers Neal Mohan a retention package of approximately $100 million to stop him from leaving for Twitter.
Twitter's board offers him the chief product officer role. It is a serious offer. David Rosenblatt, the same man who brings Neal back to DoubleClick after the MBA, is now on Twitter's board and is trying to bring Neal in with him.
Wow. The story goes that Google counters with a package worth roughly $100 million and Neal stays.
Years later, in an interview, a host references the headline, waits for a reaction. Neal doesn't flinch. He smiles. He waits for the full question. And then he responds with exactly one line. Don't believe every single headline that you read, even if it was 15 years old.
He deflects, he moves on. No bragging, no denial, just even keel Neal, his wife's nickname for him, doing what he always does, staying steady.
It is one of the most quietly revealing moments in all of the interviews, because the man who might have received $100 million to stay at a company uses it as an opportunity to teach you not to trust headlines.
That's either exceptional discipline or exceptional humility. With Neal Mohan, you suspect it's both.
Everything we have told you so far, the $25, the Michigan outsider, the Lucknow startup, the $3 billion deal, all of it pales in front of what happens to Neal Mohan in the summer of 2006.
His younger brother is Anuj Mohan. He's 30 years old. He holds a degree from MIT and is finishing his first year in the MBA program at Wharton, one of the best business schools on earth.
Anuj is the kind of person people describe with words like luminous, someone who walks into a room and makes it warmer, someone everyone wants more time with.
But there is a detail in this story that is almost unbearably poignant. 6 months before the accident, when their father Aditya is diagnosed with kidney failure in India, it is Anuj who moves mountains.
In 6 weeks, Anuj arranges for his parents to return to the United States and receive treatment at Stanford Hospital. His father receives a kidney transplant, a life-saving procedure. Anuj saves his father's life.
In May 2006, Anuj suffers a near-drowning accident at his apartment complex pool in Mountain View, California. His heart stops long enough to cause severe brain damage.
For 4 weeks, Neal and his family keep vigil at his bedside. People fly in from around the world, not just the country, the world, to be with Anuj during those 4 weeks.
And on June 11, 2006, Anuj Mohan passed away at El Camino Hospital after an infection overwhelmed his body. 6 months later, Anuj is gone.
Neal says plainly that losing Anuj destroyed the foundation on which he based the understanding of the world. That is not a metaphor. That is a statement of what it feels like to lose someone who was supposed to outlive you. What Neal does with that grief is one of the most important parts of his character. He doesn't close up, he channels it.
The family establishes the Anuj Mohan Scholarship Fund, designed to help underprivileged students reach institutions like MIT and Wharton. Because Anuj believed that deserving people, regardless of their background, deserve a level playing field.
Years later, Neal and Hema donate $10 million to the University of Texas at Austin to establish a new center for data and media. The giving continues. The grief becomes purpose.
And this brings us to our 8th victory code. What breaks you can build you. And I think it is the most powerful one of this episode.
The measure of a person isn't how they handle success, it's how they carry loss. Neal Mohan loses his brother, his closest peer, a man who had just saved their father's life.
And through the grief, he builds a scholarship, a donation, a legacy in Anuj's name. Because the best answer to a senseless and painful loss is purposeful creation. And Neal Mohan lives the truth every single day since June 2006.
Viktor Frankl writes about this in Man's Search for Meaning, the idea that when we can no longer change a situation, we are called to change ourselves. And the most powerful form of that change is to find meaning in the loss. Neal does exactly this.
It's 2015. After 8 years building Google's advertising business, the next chapter in Neal's journey begins with Susan Wojcicki. In 2014, Susan was appointed CEO. A year later, the first call she makes that matters to this story is to Neal Mohan. She wants him as the Chief Product Officer at YouTube.
Neal has been working alongside YouTube's business for years. First from DoubleClick and then from within Google's advertising division. He knows the platform's commercial engines better than almost anyone.
But the CPO role is different. It isn't just ads anymore, it is everything, product, design, trust and safety. The entire user and creator experience for a platform now approaching 1 billion users.
One of the most controversial decisions of Neal's time as CPO is one you probably remember, removing the public dislike count from YouTube videos.
The backlash is immediate and fierce. People send tweets, they send emails, they still send emails. The argument from viewers is clear. The dislike count is a quality signal. We need it. And I was one of those people.
But Neal looks at what is actually happening with that dislike button. And what he sees is a weapon, disproportionately used to brigade female creators, minority creators, and vulnerable voices on the platform.
The principle he applies is simple but brutal. What is good for creators is ultimately good for viewers. Viewers come to YouTube because of creators. Destroy the creators and you destroy the platform.
He takes the hit. He keeps the principle. He still gets emails about it. He has not reversed that decision.
That is not stubbornness. That is knowing the difference between what is opinion and what is right.
Here is a story Neal tells without a single ounce of defensiveness. YouTube Go is a lightweight version of the app built for emerging markets. Lower-end Android phones, limited data connections, places like rural India.
It is a thoughtful product solving a real problem. And then Reliance Jio happens.
In the span of a couple of years, Jio floods India with cheap, high-speed mobile data. Overnight, the problem YouTube Go is solving simply ceases to exist. India leapfrogs the infrastructure gap.
YouTube Go is retired. And in Neal's opinion, sometimes the market solves the problem you were building for. That is not failure, that is information.
The lesson is, stay close to the ground, watch what changes, and be willing to let go of something that worked yesterday if yesterday's problem no longer exists.
On February 16, 2023, Susan Wojcicki announces she is stepping down as CEO of YouTube. Neal Mohan is named her successor, the 4th CEO in YouTube's history.
The first Indian American to run the world's largest video platform. And let's be clear about what he inherits. YouTube in 2023 is not a smooth ship.
It is a platform under scrutiny from governments, advertisers, and creators simultaneously. Content moderation is a war on every front.
When asked what it actually feels like to run YouTube at this scale, Neal reaches out for an interesting metaphor.
He describes YouTube today as a metropolis. With lots of interconnected dependencies, what you do on one street impacts what happens on the other street.
Earlier, YouTube, he says, was a village. The creators knew each other, the community was quite contained. But running a metropolis, 2 billion users, tens of millions of creators, advertisers across every country, that requires a completely different kind of thinking.
Yeah. And you don't govern a metropolis the way you govern a village. You can't know everyone. You can't fix every pothole personally. You build systems.
You hire the right people. You set the principles and then you trust that the city runs.
Before we get to the numbers, and the numbers are staggering by the way, we need to tell you the story that explains why Neal Mohan shows up every day.
At the Tokyo Olympics, India wins its first ever track and field gold medal. The athlete is Neeraj Chopra. He throws a javelin to a world-class distance and wins gold.
And when journalists look into, how he learned the sport in a country with basic javelin infrastructure and no tradition in the event, they find the answer.
He taught himself the techniques to throw the javelin by watching YouTube for free.
Every day. Neal says that the only reason YouTube is free to that kid to Neeraj Chopra in that village is because of advertising.
The ad tech career, the DoubleClick years, the 400-slide plan, the $3 billion deal, all of it ultimately in service of making it possible for a kid in India to learn throwing the javelin for free.
That is what a career looks like when the mission is bigger than the money.
Under Neal Mohan's leadership, YouTube crosses $36 billion in advertising revenue in 2024. YouTube Shorts reaches 2 billion monthly logged-in users.
YouTube TV passes more than 8 million subscribers and becomes America's leading cable replacement service. YouTube Music and Premium cross 100 million subscribers.
And here is the number that captures what YouTube has truly become in the living room of the world. According to Nielsen, YouTube now accounts for 13.4% of all television viewing time in the United States. Every category of streaming, every platform, every network, YouTube is number one.
It beats Netflix, it beats Disney+, it beats every single one of them.
The platform that started as a teenager filming himself at the San Diego Zoo, 19 seconds of footage, is now the dominant force on the biggest screen in your home.
And the man who flew from the East Coast to visit its founder above a pizza parlor in San Mateo is now the one deciding where it goes next.
Ask Neal Mohan how he leads and you get a framework so clean, it almost sounds too simple. 3 words, 3 Ps.
People, principles, process. That is the whole system.
People first, because by the time you need a decision made, the people you have chosen make it better or worse than anything else you do. Getting the right people on the bus, as he puts it, is the irreplaceable job of CEO.
Absolutely. And then principles second, because the hardest decisions that reach a CEO's desk are never between a good option and a bad option. They are always between a bad option and a worse option. Your principles decide which choice would be the best for the greater good.
And process third, the operating cadence, annual plans, weekly reviews, the architecture that lets an organization function without the CEO touching every brick.
Absolutely. He says his hope at the end of his career is that the thing people remember most are the principles.
There's this one line he spoke about YouTube that really struck me, and it is brilliant in its precision.
He says, you can have freedom of speech on our platform, but it doesn't mean you get freedom of reach.
This line resolves years of debate about social media and misinformation. You can say what you want, but what you say is not guaranteed an audience. Those are two very different things.
That distinction threads through every content moderation decision, every algorithm choice, every policy that YouTube makes. It is not censorship, it is curation. And the line between the two is most contested real estate in the history of the internet. Principles before pressure. The hard decisions that reach a CEO are always between two very bad choices. The only way to make them well is to know your principles before the hard moment arrives. Neal knows his.
Freedom of speech is not freedom of reach. 6 words, a decade of content policy, and the clearest line between a responsible platform and an irresponsible one ever spoken by a technology CEO. In August 2024, Susan Wojcicki passed away after a private battle with cancer. She kept her diagnosis almost entirely secret, sharing it with only a handful of the people closest to her.
Neal Mohan was one of them.
She was the Google executive who personally orchestrated the DoubleClick acquisition. She brought Neal to YouTube as CPO. She trusted him with the platform she built for a decade. She was his closest mentor and one of his closest friends.
He quietly covered her duties for months before her formal departure as CEO because she was already ill and he was already in practice leading. He grieved privately while leading publicly.
At a moment when most leaders would be celebrating their new position, Neal Mohan was absorbing the loss of the person who made the position possible.
This is not a footnote in his story. That is the texture of what it costs to lead at the highest level.
One last personal story before we close, because it is perfect.
During the COVID-19 pandemic, Neal Mohan's garage door breaks. He is not, by his own cheerful admission, a handyman. His wife would confirm this quickly and very enthusiastically.
But he goes to YouTube, he finds a video, he watches it, he fixes the garage door. He saves time and money and comes out of the other side, probably feeling very pleased with himself.
He tells this story when people ask if he personally uses YouTube. He could say, I watched a documentary about quantum physics. He could say, I learned a new language. But he says, I fixed a garage door.
Because that is what YouTube actually is for most people, most of the time. It is not just Olympic javelin throwers. It is also garage doors. It is also changing tires. It is also cooking a specific dish you have never made before.
The platform works because it serves the extraordinary and the ordinary in equal measures. And the CEO who learns to fix his own garage door through his own platform understands that in a way that no strategy document could ever teach him. Neal Mohan's father started with a Greyhound bus and $25. Neal started at 12 with a Lucknow software company writing organic chemistry lessons.
And today, 1 billion hours of video are watched on televisions around the world every single day on the platform that Neal Mohan runs. A platform that, yes, once operated above a pizza parlor.
If today's episode changed how you see what's possible, share it with one person who needs to hear it. And if you're not already subscribed, now is the time. For every episode of The Victory Code, we take one extraordinary immigrant life, decode the decisions that made it, and extract the principles you can actually use.
Not inspiration, systems, not motivation, codes, the specific mental frameworks and the decision patterns that turn ordinary circumstances into extraordinary outcomes.
I am Vaishali.
And I'm Harsh, and this is the Victory Code Podcast.